The Galactic Council was in chaos. For centuries, it had been the cornerstone of peace and order throughout the galaxy. But today, everything was about to change. A sudden transmission from Earth, received without warning, stunned everyone. Humanity, once a proud member of the Galactic Council, had made a shocking decision. Earth was withdrawing from the talks. No explanation, no warning, just a simple, cold declaration. In the council chambers, alien leaders from every corner of the galaxy turned to each other in confusion. Representatives of the most powerful civilizations looked at one another, unsure of what to do. The voices of diplomats filled the room with anger, disbelief, and concern. How could Earth just pull out like this? The implications of such a move were enormous. Earth was one of the most influential planets in the galaxy. Its resources, technology, and military power were key to the balance of power in the galaxy. Without Earth, the Council would be vulnerable to the rising threats that lurked beyond known space. Across the room, Sailor, the High Commander of the Zithar, one of the Council's oldest allies, slammed his fist on the table. This is an insult. How dare they abandon us in the face of growing threats? His voice boomed with anger, his four eyes narrowing in disbelief. The humans had always been known for their unpredictable nature, but this was beyond anything the Council had ever anticipated. The Zithar had fought beside Earth in previous conflicts, their ships and soldiers sharing the same battlefields. Now, Sailor could not understand why they would suddenly isolate themselves, leaving the rest of the galaxy vulnerable to attack. In another corner of the chamber, Lorana, the ambassador of the Irukai, the peaceful race of sentient plant beings, felt her mind racing. The Irukai had always sought diplomacy, peace, and mutual understanding. She had been one of the most vocal supporters of Earth's membership in the Council, believing that humanity's potential to bring about positive change was immense. But now, this sudden withdrawal left her speechless. The room fell silent, and all eyes turned to the head of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Vornak, a tall, imposing figure of the Therox species. His deep voice broke the silence. "We need answers. Earth's absence changes everything." He paused, surveying the room before continuing. "Prepare to send a delegation to Earth. We must understand their reasons for this, and we must decide how to respond. The galaxy cannot afford instability right now." Back on Earth, the news of the withdrawal had caused an uproar of its own. People flooded the streets in confusion and fear. What was happening? Why was Earth pulling out? Was there an impending threat? The media erupted with speculation, but the government offered little information. The only official statement came from President Blake, who appeared on live broadcasts and gave the same vague response. "We have made a decision for the safety and security of Earth. Further details will be disclosed in due time." While the people were left in the dark, a select group of Earth's leaders and military commanders knew the real reason for the withdrawal, a discovery that was too dangerous to share with the rest of the galaxy. Something ancient had been found, something that could change the course of the galaxy forever. And it was because of this discovery that Earth had made the difficult choice to step away from the Galactic Council. But for now, no one else knew. The rest of the galaxy had only one question: why? Why would humanity make such a sudden and seemingly reckless decision? The shockwaves from Earth's decision spread far and wide. The galaxy, once united under the Council, was now facing an uncertain future. And the worst part, the answers seemed to be hidden deep within the shadows of Earth's government. The Galactic Council was still reeling from the shock of Earth's sudden withdrawal. Representatives from the other planets were left in the dark, unable to understand why humanity had made such a drastic decision. As the Council debated, more questions arose. What could be so important that Earth would risk angering its allies? What could be worth jeopardizing the peace they had fought for centuries to establish? But far away from the Galactic Council chambers, back on Earth, the true story was unfolding in the highest levels of government. In a secure underground facility, President Blake sat in a dimly lit room, surrounded by the leaders of Earth's top military commanders and scientists. The weight of the decision pressed down on his shoulders. It had been a week since the announcement, and now the real work began, protecting the Earth from an ancient threat, a threat that not only could destroy humanity but the entire galaxy. Blake's face was grim as he addressed the small group of people gathered around the table. What we've uncovered is more dangerous than anything we've ever imagined. If the Galactic Council learns what we know, it will trigger a conflict that no one can control. This isn't just about humanity's survival. This is about protecting the galaxy from something that's been dormant for millennia. A holographic map flickered to life in front of them, showing a deep, unexplored region of space, far from the Council's reach. At its center was an enormous, mysterious structure. It wasn't like any ship or station the humans or any other species had ever seen. This was something ancient, something alien, and it was waking up. "Is it possible that the Council has missed this?" asked General Carver, one of Earth's top military officers. His voice was filled with concern. How could they not know about this place? Blake rubbed his temple, trying to calm his nerves. The Council is focused on the wrong things: politics, trade, military power. But this is different. This is an ancient alien race that had been dormant, hidden from the rest of the galaxy. And now, they're awakening. The others exchanged nervous glances. "What do you mean, awakening?" asked Dr. Lin, the lead scientist. "What's going to happen?" Blake's eyes narrowed, and the silence in the room grew heavy. "We don't know exactly, but the readings we've received suggest that they are not just waking up, they are preparing." This race was unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. Their technology far surpasses anything in the known universe, including anything humanity has discovered. And now, they are searching for something that might be on Earth. "Why didn't we tell the Council?" Carver asked, his voice hardening. "Why not go to them with this? If this alien race is as dangerous as you say, we need the galaxy's help." Blake's jaw clenched. "Because we can't trust them. Not yet. The Drethar, the ancient race, are coming, and they won't stop until they've taken control of everything in their path. If we tell the Council, they might panic, or worse, they might fight over the best way to handle it. We need to act fast. We need to prepare, and we need to do it alone for now." The room fell silent again, the weight of the situation sinking in. Earth was not just facing an external threat. They were also facing internal division. The world was divided, with some calling for immediate action, while others believed that humanity should stay hidden, away from the larger galactic conflict. But one thing was clear: the threat from the Drethar was real. It had been confirmed, and if they weren't careful, Earth would be ground zero for an invasion that could change the course of history. On the other side of the galaxy, in the Galactic Council chambers, the debate had not stopped. Representatives from all over the galaxy continued to question Earth's decision, demanding to know why they had withdrawn. But no answer came. The silence from Earth was deafening, leaving the Council in the dark. Ambassador Vornak, leader of the Galactic Council, addressed the Assembly once again. "We cannot allow this sudden withdrawal to go unanswered. We must unite, or we risk falling into chaos. The Drethar are out there, and they will not hesitate to strike. Without Earth, the balance of power is fragile. We must find them, understand what is happening, and bring them back into the fold." As he spoke, a shadowy figure in the back of the chamber watched with quiet interest. His identity remained a mystery, but his presence was unsettling. His deep-set eyes studied Vornak as the ambassador spoke, and he silently wondered, what if Earth had discovered something far worse than anyone could imagine? And somewhere, hidden within Earth's government, the true plan was already unfolding. President Blake and his council of leaders knew that the only way to survive was to prepare for war. Not with the Drethar, at least not yet, but with the rest of the galaxy. If the truth came out too soon, humanity would be caught in the middle of a war they weren't ready for. Earth had to stand alone, at least for a while longer. The fate of the galaxy, it seemed, rested on their shoulders. As the galaxy spun on, unaware of the storm gathering, humanity's future hung by a thread. The stakes were higher than ever, and Earth's sudden withdrawal was only the beginning. The decision to keep the truth from the Galactic Council was weighing heavily on President Blake. As days passed since Earth's sudden withdrawal, the rest of the galaxy became more frantic, demanding answers, while on Earth, the pressure was mounting from every direction. The military was in constant preparation, and the government was in a state of heightened secrecy. The time was running out. Humanity was now at the center of a storm, one that could either save or doom them all. In a secure military facility, deep beneath the Earth's surface, President Blake met with his closest advisors. A holographic map of the galaxy hovered above the table, with an ominous red dot marking the location of the mysterious Drevar ship, a ship that was not supposed to exist. The threat was real, and it was growing by the hour. Earth had to prepare. "The Drevar are coming. We know they're coming," Blake said, his voice steady but filled with an unmistakable urgency. "We've intercepted more signals. They're waking up from their long slumber, and they're looking for something." The room fell into silence. General Carver, who had served in countless campaigns, was the first to speak. "Something. What exactly are they after, sir? We still don't know what they're searching for, do we?" Blake nodded, his fingers tapping restlessly on the table. "Not yet, but we do know one thing. This isn't just about us. They're not targeting Earth alone. They're searching for an artifact, one that's been hidden for millennia. The truth is, it's on Earth, and we're the only ones who have the key to it." Carver's eyes widened. "An artifact? Why didn't we know about this before? Why wasn't this passed on through the Council's archives?" Blake exhaled slowly. "Because it's not in any records. The artifact is ancient, far older than any civilization we know of. It was hidden by the first known races long before the Galactic Council was even formed. And somehow, we're the ones who have it." Dr. Lin, the lead scientist, spoke up. "Are you suggesting that the Drevar have been searching for this artifact all along, and that Earth, we have been unknowingly protecting it?" Blake nodded gravely. "Yes, and if the Drevar get their hands on it, they will be unstoppable. The artifact is the key to unimaginable power, the kind that could change the balance of the entire galaxy. But they don't just want power. They want control over every system, every race, and every planet. The artifact holds the key to controlling the fabric of space itself." The room grew heavy with tension. The people in this room had always known their jobs would involve risk, but this was something else entirely. This wasn't just about a fight for survival. This was about the fate of the galaxy. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council was still in turmoil. Without Earth, the once united front of the galaxy was beginning to crack. Delegations from various planets, once working together in harmony, now found themselves arguing about what to do next. The Zithar, whose people had stood with humanity through many battles, demanded an immediate military response, but others, like the peaceful Irukai, argued that they should focus on diplomacy and try to bring Earth back into the fold. Ambassador Vornak stood at the head of the Council's Great Hall, attempting to restore some order. His voice echoed through the chambers as he addressed the room. "We cannot allow Earth's withdrawal to tear apart everything we've built. The Drevar are coming, and they are unlike anything we've faced before. We need Earth to fight with us, not isolate itself in secrecy. If humanity has something they're hiding, they need to tell us now." The debate grew heated. The galaxy's greatest minds, now split into factions, were struggling to make sense of the unknown. Some wanted to push Earth to reveal what it knew, while others believed Earth's decision to leave had valid reasons. But one thing was certain: the situation was growing more dangerous by the day. Meanwhile, the mysterious alien forces, the Drevar, continued their journey through the dark corners of space, oblivious to the political chaos they had ignited. They were on a mission a mission that would bring them closer to the artifact hidden on Earth. Their ships glided silently, as if they knew time was running out. Back on Earth, President Blake stared out over the vast cityscape, his mind racing. The truth was out there, but how much time did they have before the Drethar arrived? He knew that keeping the secret any longer would only lead to more questions, more pressure from the Council, and more danger. But could they afford to reveal the full truth? Could they risk the galaxy's fragile peace just to protect a secret that had been hidden for centuries? In the darkened room, the decision was made. Blake turned to his advisors and made the choice that would set the stage for everything that was to come. "It's time," he said quietly. "We can't keep hiding from the truth any longer. We need to make contact with the Council, but we must be prepared. The Drethar will be here soon, and we need to make sure Earth is ready." The countdown had begun. The galaxy was hurtling toward a conflict that would change the course of history. As Blake and his team worked to uncover the final secrets of the artifact, the other planets continued to speculate, their whispers growing louder by the minute. The question now wasn't whether Earth would return to the Galactic Council, but whether humanity would survive the storm that was about to break. In the dark silence of deep space, the Drethar fleet moved closer to Earth. Their ships, sleek and menacing, cut through the void like shadows, guided by an ancient force. The Drethar were not a race to be underestimated. They had been dormant for centuries, their presence hidden in the far reaches of the galaxy. But now, the time had come for them to awaken. They had one purpose: to reclaim the artifact, the key to their power. Back on Earth, the military had been working around the clock, preparing for an enemy they didn't fully understand. Despite their advanced technology, the humans knew they were at a disadvantage. The Drethar's power was unlike anything they had ever encountered. They were a race of hunters, with the ability to control space itself. It wasn't just their ships that were dangerous, it was their very presence. In the underground military facility, President Blake sat in a dimly lit room, staring at the data streaming across the holographic screens in front of him. Every sensor, every signal was being tracked. But the more they searched, the more they realized the Drethar were not only closing in, they were already here. "Where are they?" General Carver's voice was tight with anxiety. His fingers moved over the control panel, zooming in on the maps of deep space. "We've picked up nothing for days. They must be cloaked." Blake's expression hardened. They'd been hiding in the dark corners of the galaxy for too long. "Their technology is beyond anything we've seen. We need to act before they make their move. We don't have time to waste." Dr. Lin, standing beside the holographic display, looked up from her data pads. "It's not just that. We've been analyzing the signals. They're not just moving toward Earth. They're headed toward a specific point in our solar system. It's like they know exactly where to go." "Where?" Blake demanded. "Towards the artifact," Lin said, her voice calm but edged with concern. "They must have detected it. It's the only explanation." The room fell silent as everyone processed the revelation. The Drethar weren't just looking for Earth. They were looking for the artifact. And they were getting closer every minute. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council's frustration was growing. The sudden withdrawal of Earth had sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Without their participation, the balance of power had shifted. As representatives debated, tensions ran high. But one thing was clear: the galaxy was on the brink of something catastrophic. Ambassador Vornak stood before the Council, his voice booming through the Grand Chamber. "We cannot afford to wait any longer. The Drethar are coming, and without Earth, we will be unprepared. We need to know what they've discovered. We need to know why they left." Lorena, the representative from the Irukai, spoke softly but firmly. "We cannot force Earth to return if they do not wish to, but we can offer help. We must understand the situation, and only then can we decide how to proceed. Are we to sit here and do nothing while an entire race prepares to conquer us?" Velor, the Zithar commander, snarled. His 6 arms trembled with barely contained anger. We should strike now, before they arrive. We can't let them take Earth. The room erupted into heated debate. Some factions urged immediate military action, while others warned of the risks of rushing into battle without full knowledge of the threat. It was clear that without Earth, the Council was divided. The decision to act was no longer simple. No one could agree on what to do next. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the Council chambers, a lone figure sat in the back, listening quietly. He had said nothing, but his sharp, calculating eyes studied every speaker with interest. He had waited for this moment when the galaxy would fall into disarray. His allegiance was unclear, but one thing was certain. He knew more than anyone in the room. Back on Earth, the situation was becoming dire. The Drethar were closing in. Blake and his team had made the decision. They needed to contact the Galactic Council. The truth about the artifact couldn't stay hidden any longer. But as Earth prepared to reach out to the galaxy, an unsettling realization began to grow. The Drethar were not just coming for the artifact. They were coming for Earth. The humans had become a target, not because of their resources or power, but because of something far more dangerous. The artifact was the key to controlling the very fabric of the galaxy, and whoever possessed it would be unstoppable. As President Blake stood on the balcony of the command center, looking out over the planet he had sworn to protect, he couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The Drethar's ships were on their way, and the galaxy was on the brink of war. If humanity didn't act fast, the entire galaxy could fall into chaos. But even now, he knew that there was no going back. The artifact had been hidden for a reason, and Earth was the only one who could stop the Drethar from unlocking its true power. The question was no longer whether humanity could survive the Drethar. It was whether they could unite with the galaxy before it was too late. As the first Drethar ship entered Earth's atmosphere, the countdown to an uncertain future had begun. The storm was approaching, and it would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced. As Earth braced itself for the inevitable storm, the atmosphere was tense with uncertainty. The world had been thrown into disarray, caught between the imminent threat of the Drethar and the shifting political landscape of the galaxy. President Blake and his advisors had made their decision. It was time to reveal the truth to the Galactic Council. The artifact, the key to unimaginable power, had to be protected at all costs, and it could no longer remain hidden in the shadows. The decision to contact the Council was not made lightly. The divisions between the different factions were growing, and the risk of galactic war seemed more imminent by the day. Blake knew that revealing Earth's secrets would set off a chain of events that could change the course of history forever. But the Drethar were already here, and every second that passed was another second closer to their unstoppable advance. In the depths of the underground facility, the final preparations were being made. The communication channels were open, but there was no guarantee that the Council would accept Earth's request for help. Tensions were high, and Blake could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on him. If the Drethar were allowed to gain control of the artifact, the galaxy would be plunged into chaos. There was no telling how far the alien race would go to secure their victory. "We don't have time," General Carver said, his voice sharp with urgency. He paced back and forth, clearly on edge. "We can't afford to wait for the Council to decide. They'll only argue, and by the time they make a move, it might already be too late." Blake nodded, his eyes focused on the holographic map that showed the approaching Drethar fleet. Their ships were moving faster than anyone had anticipated, and it was clear they were getting closer by the minute. The data they had gathered suggested that the Drethar had already begun their search for the artifact, and once they found it, they would stop at nothing to possess it. "We're not waiting for permission, Carver," Blake replied, his voice calm but filled with determination. "We'll inform them of what's happening, but Earth will act independently. We can't trust the Council to make the right decision. Not now." As Blake and his team worked to send the message to the Galactic Council, the debate raged on. The galaxy was on the brink of war, and no one knew how to stop it. Some factions, like the Zithar, called for immediate military action, demanding that Earth be forced to return to the Council's fold. Others, like the peaceful Irukai, advocated for a diplomatic approach, believing that communication and understanding could prevent the impending conflict. Ambassador Vornak, who had been at the heart of the Council's attempts to restore peace, knew that something had to change. He had spent years trying to unite the galaxy, but now, it seemed like the foundation of peace was crumbling beneath him. As he watched the representatives from the different factions argue, he couldn't help but wonder, was the galaxy's unity truly worth saving, or was it too far gone? Without Earth's knowledge, we're flying blind, Vornak muttered under his breath. If they've uncovered something the Drethar want, we need to know what it is before it's too late. The council chamber grew quiet as Vornak stood before the assembly, his deep voice cutting through the tension. The Drethar are not just coming for Earth. They're coming for something far more powerful. The artifact, hidden for centuries, is the key to their victory. If we don't act together, we'll all fall. The room buzzed with murmurs, and many representatives exchanged nervous glances. The idea of a galactic war over an ancient artifact was a terrifying thought, but Vornak's words carried a weight that could not be ignored. The Drethar weren't just after a power source. They were after control, and if they succeeded, the consequences would be catastrophic for every species in the galaxy. But just as the Council prepared to take action, an unexpected signal came through. It wasn't from Earth, but from deep within the Drethar fleet. The message was simple, cryptic, and chilling. The artifact will be ours. Prepare for the reckoning. The words sent a shiver down the spine of everyone in the room. The Drethar were no longer just a distant threat. They were here. They had arrived. Back on Earth, President Blake received the same message, and his heart sank. The Drethar were not just interested in the artifact. They were declaring war. The situation had escalated beyond anything they could have imagined. In the briefing room, Blake's team gathered around, their faces grim. The signal had been clear. The Drethar were not going to stop. It was no longer a question of diplomacy or negotiation. It was a race for survival. "We have no choice now," Blake said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "The Drethar are here, and they're coming for the artifact. We're going to have to fight back, and we're going to do it on our own terms." But even as they prepared for battle, another question loomed in the back of their minds. Would the Galactic Council act in time to help, or would humanity be forced to stand alone in this battle for the future of the galaxy? As the first Drethar ships breached Earth's atmosphere, the countdown to war had officially begun. The calm before the storm was over. The galaxy was about to change forever, and no one could predict what would come next. The skies above Earth had never looked more ominous. For days, the Drethar fleet hovered in orbit, their ships dark and silent against the backdrop of the stars. Their mere presence was a declaration of war, and the people of Earth felt the weight of it on their shoulders. President Blake and his team knew they were facing an enemy unlike any other. This was not just a battle for survival. This was a fight to protect the very essence of their existence, the artifact that could change everything. The situation had become urgent. The Galactic Council had still not made any definitive moves. Some factions had started to break away from the alliance, and others, too afraid to act, were waiting for Earth to make the first move. Time was running out. The Drethar had made their intentions clear, and as their ships descended closer to Earth, it became evident that the Council's indecision had sealed their fate. Humanity could no longer afford to wait. In the underground command center, President Blake addressed his military commanders. The room was packed with generals, scientists, and strategists, all preparing for the worst. Outside, the sound of fighter jets soaring through the air could be heard, as Earth's forces scrambled to defend the planet. "We cannot wait any longer," Blake said, his voice low but resolute. "The Drethar are close. We'll give the Council one more chance to respond, but we will act without them if necessary. The artifact is ours to protect, and it is humanity's last line of defense." General Carver, standing at attention, looked over the tactical plans. We've mobilized every available resource. The Drethar are outgunning us, but we have one thing they don't: the element of surprise. If we can catch them off guard, we may have a fighting chance. Blake nodded. The Drethar were known for their advanced technology, capable of manipulating space itself. But humanity had one advantage: an ancient technology hidden on Earth, kept secret for centuries. Blake wasn't sure if it was enough to defeat the Drethar, but he knew they had to try. "Deploy the first wave," Blake ordered, a quiet determination in his voice. "Make sure the artifact is secured at all costs. The Drethar cannot have it." As the order was passed along the chain of command, Earth's military forces began their assault. Fighters launched from underground bases, their engines roaring as they tore through the atmosphere toward the Drethar ships. The sky was filled with flashes of light as missiles streaked through the air, targeting the invading fleet. But the Drethar were prepared. The first wave of attacks was met with a terrifying response. The alien ships glowed with an eerie energy, their shields shimmering as they absorbed the blasts. It was clear that their technology was far superior to anything humanity had developed. The humans' weapons had little effect on the Drethar vessels, and the battlefield quickly shifted in the aliens' favor. However, humanity wasn't out of options yet. In a hidden military facility deep beneath the surface of the planet, a team of scientists and engineers had been working day and night on a secret project, something that could turn the tide of the war. The artifact, though ancient and shrouded in mystery, had already been partially studied. It was clear that its true power remained dormant, and it was humanity's only hope. "We're activating it now," Dr. Lin announced, her hands hovering over the holographic controls. "If the Drethar are after this, we can use it against them." The team worked frantically as the ancient device powered up. As it came online, a strange energy field spread across the room, and the artifact pulsed with light. For a moment, there was silence, as if the entire planet held its breath. The lights flickered, and then the earth-shattering sound of an explosion rumbled through the facility. The energy was not only alive, it was responding. Outside, the Drethar fleet, once unstoppable, began to falter. Their shields flickered and their ships started to slow. The energy from the artifact had interfered with their technology, disrupting their systems in ways that the aliens hadn't anticipated. Blake watched as the reports came in. The first signs of success. The Drethar ships were losing power. Their shields were failing. Earth had found a way to strike back. But even as humanity gained the upper hand, the battle was far from over. The Drethar fleet wasn't just a group of ships. It was a living, breathing force. Their resolve was unmatched, and their drive to secure the artifact was far more powerful than anything humanity had yet encountered. As the battle raged in the skies, President Blake made a grim decision. "We need to take the fight to them," he said, turning to his commanders. "Prepare the ground forces. We cannot let the Drethar reach the artifact. The war is no longer just in space. It's here, on Earth." At that moment, a new report came through. The Drethar were preparing to land on Earth. Their ground forces, an elite force of alien soldiers, were moving toward key locations across the planet, aiming to take control of the artifact by any means necessary. Blake knew this was it. The galaxy was on the verge of an all-out war, and the future of Earth, and possibly the entire universe, was hanging in the balance. Humanity had made its stand, and now it was time to face the Drethar head-on. The countdown had begun. The war for the galaxy's future would be decided on Earth. The storm had come, and humanity would either rise to the challenge or fall before an unstoppable enemy. The question was no longer if Earth could survive. The question was whether humanity could unite long enough to defeat a common enemy before the Drethar succeeded in their mission. The clock was ticking, and the fate of the galaxy rested in the hands of those willing to fight for it. The skies above Earth were now filled with the echoes of war. Drethar ships, once sleek and untouchable, now struggled to maintain their dominance as the artifact's mysterious power interfered with their technology. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had hope. The Drethar were not invincible, and the tide of battle had shifted. But even as Earth's forces pressed forward, the Drethar were not about to give up their quest for the artifact. They would do whatever it took to claim it, and to crush any species that stood in their way. President Blake stood in the war room, his mind racing with the weight of his decisions. The battle in space was only the beginning. The Drethar ground forces were now advancing, and Earth's last line of defense was the artifact, hidden deep within the most secure military facility on the planet. "General Carver," Blake said, his voice steady despite the mounting pressure. "How long until the Drethar arrive?" Carver's face was grim as he scanned the live battlefield reports. "They're less than an hour away, sir. Our forces are holding them back, but the Drethar are relentless. They're adapting faster than we anticipated. We can't afford to lose the artifact," Blake replied, turning toward the holographic map that showed the location of the Drethar's advance. "We need to buy more time. Any way we can slow them down." "Not without more firepower," Carver said. "We've deployed everything we have, but it's not enough to hold them off indefinitely." Blake's gaze hardened. "Then we fight them at all costs. The artifact must stay protected. We can't risk letting them control it. It's the key to everything." Outside, the storm of battle raged. The skies were filled with the sound of fighter jets and explosions as Earth's military forces fought tooth and nail to hold the line. But the Drethar's ground forces were not like anything humanity had faced before. They were fast, brutal, and well-coordinated. With every step, they moved closer to the hidden facility where the artifact was stored. In the war room, Dr. Lin's voice interrupted the tension. "We've discovered something critical," she said, her fingers dancing over the holographic interface. "The artifact doesn't just interfere with Drethar technology. It has the potential to control it. If we can activate it fully, we may be able to turn their own ships against them." Blake's heart skipped a beat. This was the moment they had been waiting for. The artifact wasn't just humanity's last hope. It could be the key to turning the tide of the war. But using its full power came with risks. No one knew the true extent of what it could do, and there was no time for second chances. "We don't have a choice," Blake said, making up his mind. "Activate it. We need to take the fight to them before they reach the artifact." As Dr. Lin and her team worked frantically to power up the artifact, the last of Earth's defenses were falling. The Drethar's ground forces were closing in on the facility, and within moments, they would reach the door. Blake turned to Carver, his face resolute. "Prepare the troops. We're going to make our final stand here." On the front lines, Earth's soldiers prepared for what would likely be their last fight. The Drethar were ruthless, and their soldiers moved like a storm, overwhelming anything in their path. But humanity wasn't about to go down without a fight. Armed with whatever they could, the soldiers dug in, determined to protect their world from the oncoming invasion. As the Drethar's elite warriors closed in on the facility, the ground shook with the force of their heavy weaponry. But inside the command center, Dr. Lin's team was ready. The artifact hummed with energy, its power growing stronger by the second. "Now," Dr. Lin shouted as the artifact's final systems activated. A brilliant pulse of light erupted from the device, and everything changed. The Drethar fleet in space faltered, their ships momentarily losing power. But it wasn't just their ships. The ground forces, too, were suddenly thrown into disarray. It was as if the artifact had hacked their very essence. The Drethar's advanced technology began to malfunction, their weapons turned against them, and their once unbeatable warriors stumbled in confusion. It was humanity's chance. "We've got them," General Carver yelled as Earth's forces pushed forward, charging into the breach. But just as the human soldiers gained ground, the Drethar forces seemed to regroup, as if fueled by desperation. Their commanders were pushing harder than ever, rallying their troops with brutal efficiency. They were unwilling to let their prey slip through their grasp. Blake watched as the battle played out on the holographic display. The artifact's power was causing chaos among the Drethar, but it wasn't enough to guarantee victory. Earth's forces were still outnumbered, and the Drethar weren't giving up. Then, from the heart of the Drethar forces, a new command came through. A towering figure, larger than the others, stood at the front lines. It was the Drethar leader, a being known only as Call. He was the one who had led the search for the artifact, the one who would stop at nothing to control it. "Prepare for the final push," Call's voice echoed over the battlefield. "We take the artifact now, or we end this war once and for all." Blake knew this was the turning point. It wasn't just about the artifact anymore. It was about Earth's survival. The Drethar had everything riding on this battle, and if they succeeded, there would be no turning back. In the heart of the facility, Blake and his team made their final move. "Activate the full defense protocols," Blake ordered. "We're not letting them win." The final assault was on. Earth's forces and the Drethar were locked in an epic struggle. Every moment felt like it could be the last, and with the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance, Blake couldn't help but wonder, would humanity rise from the ashes, or would the storm finally swallow them whole? The battle had begun, but the true war was just beginning.